like to call this meeting to order. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. I'd like to call this meeting to order. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay. Which it stands, one nation, under God. Should we wait a second? Indivisible. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. This meeting to order. Okay, I'm going to recall the meeting to order. So the next thing we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and, unless you're ready, Commissioner Choma, do you want to take attendance or do you want me to have Vice Chairman Craig? Okay. I'll go ahead and have Vice Chairman Craig take attendance, please.
Chairman Anselmi Dalton.
Present.
Vice Chairman Craig here. Secretary Choma, I believe is present online.
Online.
Commissioner Glick.
Online.
Commissioner Hosey.
Here.
Online. Commissioner Pence.
Here.
Commissioner Sucre.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the motion for the minutes for those two meetings.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Sucre, a second Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is review public hearings. It's a handout. And Rory, I guess you're gonna help us out with that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Pleased to be here to walk you through our public hearings, which we just held only last week, actually. Just so everyone knows, statutorily, we are required to hold public hearings for projects that are advancing to level 3 construction. We do it in the formal setting. That's at level 2. Level 1s, however, are just draft report presentations. So what we have here, the list of projects that you see, and there are 14 different projects, 14 different hearings that we held. These were instances where they didn't do a level 2, or it's been some time, they maybe came in straight to level 3 or jumped from a 1 to a 3, but we didn't catch them on level 2. So before they get into level 3, and we're going forward with an omnibus water bill construction, those projects have to have a public hearing. That's a requirement. Like I said, we've already done it for the ones level 2 that are advancing, but these are ones that had 14 public hearings, as I mentioned. I will tell you that no one's spoken at all at those project hearings. There were two spoke in favor of the proposed project, And then on the flip side there, on December 12th, at the Casper Alcova lateral 256 check structure hearing, we had four people speak in favor of the project. So no opposition, and two hearings where people spoke in favor of their projects. And that would be it.
And thank you for that quick update on everything. Sounds like you guys had a good time during your week.
It was wonderful.
Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Barry, for
Thank you.
the help. We appreciate it. Okay, the next thing we'll do is I guess we'll turn it over to the director to do the planning closeout memos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder before we get started on these, I mentioned at the November meeting, we had 4 projects that were slightly out of invoices and things like that and reports to be able to close those projects out. So every one of these except Tillard were ones that you guys considered level 3 applications on back in November. So slightly out of order. Just want to remind everybody of that. So with the first one, Casper Alcova Irrigation District Master Plan, Barry actually helped finish that up from a previous
through the Casper Alcova Irrigation District Master Plan closeout. The district approached us and approached the commission in 2022, asking for an update to their 2008 master plan. It had been some time. There have been significant changes. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Casper Alcova Irrigation District is located in Natrona County near Casper. It was constructed in the 30s and 40s, and it includes the Casper Canal, which is approximately 62 miles long, which is the primary conduit. Also 149 miles of laterals and sublaterals, a main head gate at Alcova Reservoir, 6 tunnels, 12 siphons, 9 check structures, and approximately 24,146 acres of irrigated lands in the district. The study was approved by the 2023 legislature with a $310,000 appropriation. The selected consultant was WWDC Engineering at a contract amount of $309,600, and that contract was executed on March 30th, 2023. The final contract amount is $289,645.38 for a contract savings of $19,954.62. The study inventoried and assessed canal system, investigated conveyance losses. It identified and prioritized capital improvement projects. It came up with conceptual designs, cost estimates for what was produced. It also did an economic analysis to include ability to pay and needed rate assessments. Specific findings on the study. As I mentioned, structures were classified and prioritized. They're classified as poor or failing. Those were prioritized for rehabilitation on condition and importance to the district. There are numerous structures in the district that need rehabilitation. There were 8 that were moved forward with conceptual designs, cost estimates. Total component cost $195,000. Total project cost of $275,400. That includes the engineering contingency, final plans, and legal fees, etc. There were numerous structures that in the district that need to be replaced. With 17 moved forward with conceptual designs and cost estimates. Total component costs about $3,516,563. Total project costs $5,267,063. And it was broken down in different financing plans and estimated acreage assessments and so forth. There was also an extensive seepage investigation that was done. And what they found was that the earthen lateral and pipeline conversion and so I will tell you that we've got a really good database here, GIS system. The entire district, 1,600 structures are included in that GIS, and also includes legacy GIS assessments from the previous go around, a complete map of the district's water rights over time, estimated seepage limits, recent structure assessments, as I mentioned. They did assess all those structures and so forth. And then the important thing too is it's compatible. This is compatible with the critical aging irrigation infrastructure project that Chase Tavelli has been running, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. The draft report was held at the Cade office in Mills, Wyoming, October 10th. And then, as Jason alluded to, we did also have a public hearing on that one application, level 3, the check structure and so forth. That was on December 12th. So the office, in summary, the office recommends acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract.
Any questions or comments? There is, as he said, a proposed motion on page 25 of the e-notebook. And for each of these ones as we go along, so we'll do them one by one. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Commissioner Cott,
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the commission proceed to the next level of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor.
we're missing, I think, part of it above.
Did I? Oh, sorry. Complete, and further, that the WWDC make the following findings relative to this project. That the commission recommend
Commissioner Cott and seconded by Commissioner Kaylee, is that correct? Oh, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you,
Thank you,
Barry.
Madam Chair.
Okay, now we have the Goshen Irrigation District Master Plan. Kevin, welcome.
Madam Chair. I'm here to present the closeout memo for the Goshen Irrigation District Master Plan Level 1 study. It was funded under rehabilitation. It was a 2023 appropriation of $300,000 that started this project, and the consultant selected was Western Heritage. And the amount of the contract was $200,999,700, and the final contract $639. The contract savings was $10,061. The contract was executed in March of 2023. The Goshen Irrigation District was formed in 1936, and it serves over 52,000 acres and 421 landowners in the Goshen County area, from the Wayland Diversion Dam above Fort Laramie down to the Nebraska state line. The district requested the 2008 Water Master Plan be updated and reevaluated for conditions today. And so, because of the failure of the Fort Laramie the entire system, there's about 1,900 structures, and some of those are over 100 years old. From that, they found a list of 7 projects that were the highest. 0.3 mile wasteway for either replacement or improvement. That would be a future level 2 study. Spillway structure. The third one is the 62.2 miles check structure. That's the one that came in for a level 3. Structure and 13.5 mile wasteway structures. The 5th one is Horse Creek Siphon. The 6th one is the 15-foot partial flume measuring station downstream of the Wayland Diversion Dam. And the 7th project is a series of lining projects in different segments that have been identified along the different canals. Public And as Barry stated, the public hearing was held for this 62.2 mile structure was on December the 12th last week. So is recommends the acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract for the Goshen Irrigation District plan October 31st this year. So I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate that. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Suker?
Simple question, I guess. Did they participate in our, 2021 infrastructure?
Yeah.
Did they? And how much does that compare to what they turned in? It'd be kind of interesting sometimes to look at those, what was actually given to us back then and where they are now with what you just mentioned, our needs.
Madam thing looked at all the structures and they are the ones, these 7 recommended ones are some of the ones that were on the aging infrastructure list. And Chase Tavalli knows more about that because he's been in charge of that.
Oh, good. I just wondered how accurate the original was to what we had today. So pretty close or really well, or
That was a listing kind of more so, and some of it was prioritized, a preliminary prioritization. But at these 7 projects that were recommended to be the future ones, that it seemed to be the highest priority. So.
Welcome, Chase.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Mhm.
As part of the recommendation process this year, I was tasked with looking up projects that are being recommended versus how they ranked in the critical aging irrigation infrastructure study. And this particular structure, I believe, was like ranked 2 or 3. And after the update to the facility condition, it actually ranked tied for first place, which is then in the top 30 of every structure in the state. So this would be a top 30 structure now.
so they do correlate very
Right.
close. So
Very-
it worked.
yes.
It was a good thing to do. I guess
Yes,
is what I'm
yes.
saying.
Anytime that we do an update,
Yeah.
there's a update to the critical aging database. And this was one that proved out to be pretty simple to see that it rose to the top of the list
Good, thank
for the
you.
district. Sure.
Thank you. And Kevin, when I look at these numbers though, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, when you look at number 7 and all the rest of them, it's close to $100 million
Oh yeah,
of
it's gonna
expenses.
be-
I mean, is this something that I'm just asking, is ARPA fund, can that cover it, Jason or Kevin?
Madam Chair, not ARPA, but they have been looking into, I think, Water Smart. And if I remember right, Goshen was even thinking about looking into NRCS funds, which is more of a long-term look at the entire watershed. Eligible for as well. So they're looking to take advantage of those. I know with the structure, I believe it was Water Smart. Usually
And that's how they break it down in projects. Is that correct, Director? They break it down into sometimes sub-segments.
Yeah, that is correct. For federal funding.
Okay, thank you. I was But we're not approving the 100 million. We're just approving the study. So I just wanted to just ask the question, but thank you very much, Kevin.
Madam Chair, if I could add one thing,
Great.
is the 62.2 mile check structure that came in for an application. If that structure fails, 40% of their water users would be out of water.
Right. And we know that that's economically also a disaster. So we appreciate that. I just was more startled by the numbers as you read through. It's just a lot, boy, for these canals. But thank you so much. Any other further questions from the commission? Anyone online? Because I can't really see. You'll just wave at me if you see anybody. All right. Okay. No questions. All right. Then we do have on page 27 of the e-notebook, we do have a proposed motion.
Further, the WWDC make the following findings relative to this project. Proceeding to the next level of the project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Silent Irrigation District Master Plan. Welcome, Mabel.
Irrigation District Level 1 study. The project was sponsored by Sidon Irrigation District, which is located near the town of Cali, and then it extends south to the town of Byron. This was a 2023 project and the appropriation was $177,000. The consultant which was selected was JUB Engineers Incorporated. The original contract amount was $176,872. Final contract amount, $176,866.73, with a contract savings of $5.27. Smaller system than the two previous systems that you heard about today. It has a permitted flow rate of 380 cubic feet per second and provides irrigation for approximately 13,300 acres of crops and pasture for over 600 landowners. Associated with the system. 13 miles of those laterals are currently piped and 42 miles remain as open channels. It was constructed in the early 1900s and they previously had a planning study in 1994. The district has completed a number of those projects that were identified into the 1994 study, including upgrading their diversions and a number of other projects. This study examined the condition of the conveyances, turnouts, and other structures to provide the district with a guiding document for future rehabilitation efforts. They looked and to prioritize the rehabilitation or replacement of those structures, they used a scoring matrix which identified or looked at condition, acres impacted, safety risk, and how to accomplish the work in the next 10 to 15 years. And so with those projects, concept level designs and costing were developed. Several spill automation and improvements were recommended. There are 6 spills located along the canal, which provide an outlet for water to release into the Shoshone River, Sage Creek, or Peterson Creek. Currently, these spills are operated manually and energy dissipation and erosion control is needed. So 5 of the 6 spills were identified as high priority for rehabilitation, including replacement and automation of the check structures, restoration of the spillways, and completing erosion control. A number of improvements were recommended for the canals and the laterals. 3 of the laterals were proposed to have an impervious liner installed, topped with a concrete floor to reduce seepage. Also, a pipeline at Mortensen Cut is proposed, which would replace several miles of open canal with a more direct route of a piped canal. So that's a pretty expensive project that's proposed there. And then the Byron lateral pipeline would convert existing open conveyances to pipe on the current alignment. And then another project includes looking and several crossings were prioritized for replacement where restrictions create near full conditions or other issues such as corrosion when those crossings were identified. And then the final project looks at the canal outlet. That's continuing to deepen and is in need of rehabilitation to provide energy dissipation and erosion control. So the project costs are summarized in the table in the closeout memo. 2 projects were recently submitted to our office for level 3 funding. One of those projects was looking at canal lighting for a number of the laterals for the Byron Lake, the Wilson, and the Cali North laterals. And then the other project that was proposed for level 3 funding was related to those road crossings. The district did for priority, but there's also the opportunity to complete that project because they have will have engineering provided by the county, and also the county will provide a lot of the construction for that. And so just the opportunity was there. You know, it was really a good time. They felt that it was a good time to address that because they had the partnership in place. So in October of 24, the final report was presented at the Sidon Irrigation District office in Cali. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to field those. But we would like to recommend acceptance of the final report and closing of this contract.
Thank you, Mabel. Appreciate that excellent presentation. That's good. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. So again, we have a proposed motion for this on page 29 of the e-notebook. Does anyone want to see no discussion? Does anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Vice Chairman Craig?
Madam Chair, I move acceptance of the Sidon Irrigation District Master Plan Level 1 Study Project Report as being complete. And further, the commission makes the following findings relative to this report. That the commission recommend proceeding to the next level of project development upon the submittal of
Commissioner Suker? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, Mabel.
All right.
One is the Willwood Irrigation.
Tillard.
Oh,
Okay. So you have before you the closeout memo for the Tillard Canal Planning Project, and I will walk you the consultant for this project was Western Heritage Consulting and Engineering LLC. This was a 2023 project and the appropriation was $173,000. The original contract amount was $172,500. Final amount, $162,489.90. Contract savings amount of $10,000. $10.10. So the Tiller Canal Company is a small, has a small service area. And the company requested a reconnaissance study to determine the current condition and future needs for water delivery to 12 landowners. It encompasses 1,053 water righted acres, and the canal is 5.25 miles in length and provides gravity flow irrigation water to the service area. Again, this canal was built over approximately 100 years ago. It is unlined, does have significant seepage, some erosion. Due to sedimentation and water delivery issues, there are challenges with getting water to the end of the system, which impedes some users. The system is fed by a aging portable pump on the Bighorn River. You needed to know how to swim, so you could help whenever they and recommendations included are listed in the closeout memo in the table, based on the survey of structures and conveyances. The Tiller considered for the pump stations, which would be compatible with both the open, keeping this as an open pipe or converting or open channel or converting the canal to pipe. The preferred pump station options under consideration included something similar to what they have now, which would be an improved ramp and a portable pump in the river, or utilization of an intake structure to create a wet well off of the river and installing a pump within that. The canal company recognizes the strengths of both of those options, didn't necessarily land on one or the other. You know, I think it would probably there or looking at canal maintenance and improvements to check structures and optimizing locations for new check structures on the canal. Both of the diversion options, whether it would be a pump in the river or a wet well, would be compatible with either the piping or the open canal system. The study also included exploring options for the canal company to become a public entity. This requirement was waived when the canal company came in for the level 1 study. And they have been actively, so they looked at 7 different options for becoming a public entity. And there were Water Conservancy District, Irrigation District, and Watershed Improvement District were explored more thoroughly because those seemed the most appropriate. And they landed on looking into becoming an irrigation district. They are well on their way to becoming an irrigation district. They did a lot of work on getting the background information prepared, working with an attorney, had a lot of help from Elk Canal, who had recently became an irrigation district. So they're able to springboard off of some of the work that they did. And a public hearing is scheduled in January for the canal company to formally become an irrigation district. At that, and actually at that meeting, they were getting the final approval from all the members of the canal company to become a district. So that was a little bit that was added on to that. So to recommend acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract for this project. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Great. Thanks, Mabel. Good job on the $10,010.10 versus the $5.75.
It's a little binary, wasn't it?
Kind of crazy. All right. Do we have any questions or comments on this one?
I move acceptance of the Tillard Canal Company Level 1 study project report as being complete, and further the WWDC makes the following findings relative to this project. That the commission recommend proceeding at the next level of project development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by an eligible sponsor.
Great, thank you.
Second.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Pence. Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Suker?
and I think they're on the right track. Turned it off instead of on. I say they're on the right track, becoming a legal entity, but how do we see the
Well, and they wouldn't be eligible to receive state funds.
Madam Chair, you guys have the
Yeah.
ability to waive the entity requirement for level 1 studies, but
Right.
after that, they're required to be an entity,
Right.
a legal entity.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're okay there. Thank you.
Yeah, and they have not applied for another, an account 3, or I'm sorry, a level 3 construction project yet. So
Okay.
hopefully they'll be an irrigation district before they do.
Hopefully
'cause
they will
Otherwise, they
be.
won't be eligible.
And it sounds like
That's
it
right.
could be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Craig?
I do have a question to piggyback on Commissioner Suker's. Kind of, could we get a 10,000-foot view of the differences between the irrigation district, a water conservancy district, and a water improvement district?
We have some,
Is that possible?
well, and we actually, the master plan does include a comparison of that,
Okay.
of what the different reporting. We could provide that to the commission. As I understand it, a water conservancy district would fall underneath a conservation district in terms of the management, but we do about how those function.
Follow up.
Go ahead. Follow up.
That documentation is in the master plan?
It
did you
is.
say?
Yeah, it is included in the master plan, and then also some documents that we have at the office.
And that details the differences a little bit clearer then?
Yes.
I know some of it has to do with ability to assess fees as
Yeah.
basically as taxes. They're not taxes, but they are considered that if you fail to pay, there can be liens levied and things like that. But also think, isn't there something about the steps, the legal steps necessary to form those districts, the differences in each of them?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, I believe you're correct. It's been a while since I thought through the different entities like that. So I can't give you the specifics today. But yeah, there are differences between the two. Some of them are through the district courts, some are through the county assessor's office. They all have eminent domain power, if I remember correctly. And yeah, you're exactly right. There are some nuances between the three.
Mhm.
And I think it even comes down to regulation in some of them, where the state engineer's office and the boundaries of like an irrigation district, more or less, I think you regulate yourselves, and the state engineer's office more of the administration of the water within the district is handled by the district themselves. So there's little differences here and there and pros and cons of each depending on your situation. So yeah.
Great. And then if you just want to send us something, I don't
Sure.
know, that'd be fine. Is that
Mhm.
okay with you? Just follow up with something.
Yeah.
He would like some nighttime reading.
Yeah, we'll package
Commissioner
up what's in the master plan and then a little bit of information that we've received from because in the past, yeah, we can send that out.
Great, thanks. And thank you, Mabel. Okay, any other further questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Kaylee and Pince. Any further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carried. Thank you, Mabel. Okay, I think the next one, is it Willwood? Is that the way you say it? Okay, I want to say it right. Okay, Chase, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to get situated. I have a interesting memory, so this is my memory today. It's right here.
Looks a little too long.
And I'm here to present the closeout memo for the Willwood Irrigation District Rehab Level 2 study. It was an original appropriation of $346,000. The $45,788. And after the final bills were paid, we saved 70. Analysis for a specific projects versus, reconnaissance level work. This is more conceptual. As well, contribute sediment to the main canal. And so those two areas were looked at as well. The first table that you see under the project findings and recommendations is a listing of the is the highest priority, and there was a recommendation. This is slightly out of order, as Director Mead pointed out. Willwood Chute is the highest priority in that district at this time. The structure's rated as failing. There's a significant amount of water leaking out from underneath the structure. You can actually see it flowing out from underneath. It could be through cracks in the chute walls or water's leaking around the chute's apron at the top of the structure. This could create event. Complete structure replacement is recommended at about $1.7 million. The other projects in there, lateral 70 is another failing project, failing structure. It's a 15,400 foot long pipe with 11 head gates coming off of it, and it's creating geysers in areas. And it's very difficult to fix right now, so a complete replacement is recommended. And then some of the others are for rehab or complete replacement as well. And I can go into those further if you'd like. For now, we'll focus on Willwood Chute. If you added up all of those projects, you're looking at $8.3 million. Okay, so that's on district projects that were looked at in the level 2, $8.3 million. Shifting gears to the dam, a new diversion, just to cut right to it, is $48.3 million. This was a desktop analysis. It's a very similarly sized dam. It's further upstream. There's a lot of complications in conveying the water from a new structure to the district. On the south side on the right bank, it's very steep, rough country that would be hard to put any kind of an alignment of a pipe. And the other side, there's properties involved, and I believe it's a mile-long pipe, so it's going to be a significant cost as it is. So the dam itself was recommended for significant rehabilitation, and that the consultants recommended that take place in the next 10 years. The second table in the memo reflects, I believe, 15 components of that rehabilitation project. Those are line items within the cost estimate. That is not what that right downstream abutment would cost. This table was a little big, so I eliminated the mobilization, engineering, design, and construction and contingencies, a lot of the extra costs that would go into that. Work in the next decade. impactful. We did a public hearing on September 10th of this year at the Willwood Irrigation District main office. It was attended by a couple users and the board of directors. So there wasn't any public there. They were invited. It was, really well received, and there was a lot of support for the projects as they were identified. The WWDO recommendation is the WWDO recommends acceptance of the final report submittals and closing the consultant services contract for the Willwood Irrigation District Rehabilitation Level 2 study. The final report and public hearing determined that the project is in the public interest and the project functions and services cannot realistically be provided by any person, association, or corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chase? Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, Madam Chair. Chase, do you know how many people are affected? District.
So there's 204 landowners, 11,006. If this chute were to go out, any kind of a catastrophic failure, they'd have to shut down the entire district. So, if you're thinking about the critical aging irrigation infrastructure study, it would be about 70% of the acres tied to this structure. But in reality, you lose the entire system if this were to fail. So
would these guys rank in that top 30 for the chute?
They do not. They do not. However, turned out to be a 9.2 rank, and I think that we're getting around the 10s and 12s. We're in the top 30. So, but as far as the district goes, this is the number one. This ranks the highest right now. The chute does.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit more. So on page 34, 35 of the e-notebook. Commissioner Craig, Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, I move acceptance of the Willwood Irrigation District Rehabilitation Level 2 project report as being complete. And further, the commission makes the following findings relative to the development upon the submittal of an appropriate funding application by the sponsor. Based on the findings in the final report, the project is determined to be in the public interest, and the project functions and services cannot really
Second by Commissioner Pins. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 comment, and I don't think it's any secret. Looking at all of these closeout memos and the dollars is very concerning. We're and dams and whatnot on all of these systems. And yet for me as an irrigator, it hits close to home because the loss of this water is the loss of a livelihood, loss of potentially a large economy in an area of our state. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone in this room does, but I will say we might have to really start thinking outside the box on how to figure out ways to fund these, because I don't think the state or even the federal government entirely can continue to pay for all of these things at the level of expense. Somehow we have to figure out ways to try the chute that you're talking about. I'm very familiar with that. shoot, I forget exactly how long it is, 100 yards maybe, Chase, is that about right? 400?
Excuse
So-
me, Madam Chair, about 400 feet, I believe.
Thank you, Chase.
And I know what's going on. It's the water's piping under it. If it continues, it's going to collapse. When it collapses, they have to shut the canal down because there's nowhere to spill the water, even for the land that's irrigated above that. Any water that goes to those farms above that chute, there has to be spill off of those to back the water up enough to even get it out of the canal. So the chute has to be repaired or no one gets water in the system. So anyway, just a comment or observation. Anyone has to add to that, jump in. I don't want to go all day on that, but I think it's something we really have to start trying to figure out. How are we going to pay for these?
How much that one project was. Go ahead, Chase.
Madam
you.
Chair, thank you. I can tell you that for this particular project, the district was able to secure
Commissioner Craig.
Part that they want to beat the bushes to do that. But again, that's still taxpayer funds. It's federal funds. That's NRCS money. That's your and our money. And you have to question how long will that continue?
It is tricky.
Just a
Commissioner
comment, Madam Chair. It's kind of funny to sit here and look at all these things that were done years and years ago. This is a long time ago that these structures were built. And in the maintenance and in the rehabilitation that these structures need, that we cannot finance them today or find money to rebuild them. That's what really bothers me. How did they do it years ago? Question. How did they? I don't know. They didn't do it on magic. They did it on manpower with horses. Maybe some of them had buggies to carry the dirt. Or why didn't we start building these years ago? You know, something ain't right here. That all at once we got a whole bunch of them to restore and to rebuild, reconstruct. And so, in other words, how did they get them done before? Is there a source we're missing? I don't know. But anyway, that's just comment. Thank you.
I
Commissioner
don't,
Craig?
built with loan funds and those districts paid that back over time. Not all of the money was federal or state dollars that built some of those. It might have been federal or state money that was loaned. I know some of those irrigation districts, the large ones, had loans that had terms 50 years. They had to stretch them out that long to afford the payments. I believe that the Hart Mountain Irrigation District is still paying off some of that money that they borrowed to put some of those projects in place.
Were they federal loans or do you know that?
I don't know. I know there was some loan funds. It wasn't all grant money or in-kind money or that kind of thing.
Maybe that's where we need to look again, where the sources were. Maybe we can get them back. I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. All right. So I think, thank you very much, Chase. I think we have already voted on that one. Irrigation infrastructure.
Take it away, Chase.
And is that going to be you again, Chase?
Madam Chair, I'll take this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Infrastructure assessment level 1. It's to extend the contract. This is just a contract extension. This is not for a change in appropriation in any way. As you know, and it's good to new information wherever that could take place. Okay, a lot of that existing information is studies that that the Water Development Commission funded and that have been done. And eventually 30 structures were identified. And I believe it was about a $200 million price tag for those 30 structures. During the critical studies were then not able to be incorporated into the critical aging. CAII is what we like to call it, so I don't have to say a lot, 4 big words. And so we talked to the consultant and told them about our concerns, and they said that that's something that they could and far easier skills. And so we decided to take them up on that if with the approval of this amendment. And so we will just be extending their contract date, and we will get that newly created data into CAII, and it will be 100% up to date.
Thank you, Chase. Any other further comments, Director? Did you have something you want to add? Okay. Any questions or comments? This is simply an extension of time, no additional funds. And so I would just look for a motion to approve the contract amendment 2 to the critical aging irrigation infrastructure assessment level 1 study contract. Okay, great. Motion by Commissioner Katie. Second. Second by Commissioner Suker. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if it's okay, if we could skip to Riverton, just since Chase is up here because he's doing that one as well, and then we'll go to Douglas.
I thought he wanted more exercise. Okay, we'll
Make him
go
sit
ahead
down
and
and
do
come back. That's okay.
Riverton. All right, Chase, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, just a contract extension. Right now, we're knocking on the door of having a final deliverable ready for production. However, there's some review that needs to be done on their GIS still, as well as the executive summary. The final report is just about ready to hit print. And rather than try to rush through it, extension of the contract due date so that we could more appropriately fulfill the requirements of the study and get a good final product.
Okay, thank you, Chase. And again, this is just for an extension of time, not an increase in money. And they had to understand we don't want to see them coming back for more money either. So, so what I'd be looking for is any discussion on this first? Okay, no. So I'd just be looking for a motion to approve the amendment number 2 to the Riverton Regional Water Master Plan Level 1 study contract.
Madam Chair, I will move that we just use that.
Okay, so that we will. Discussion? Okay, if not, then all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you, Chase. We're going on to the Douglas test well. George, I haven't seen you yet. A new face. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Madam Chair. George Mosier with the Planning Division of Water Development. For your consideration today is a contract amendment for the Douglas Test Well Level 2 study. And I think we are on tab C, page 41 in the e-notebook. Members of the commission will probably remember that we have extended this contract before. This original and access. Then subsequently in the 2023 legislative session, turned out that the budget for actual drilling of the test well was a little bit short in the original appropriation. Then most recently, you'll recall that we had some conversation in May at the workshop. At that point in time, the chosen drilling contractor, their bit and tooling stuck in the hole. Ultimately, that led to them plugging and abandoning that unsuccessful test borehole. And then over this past summer, the contractor has been in negotiations with our consultant. And just to under these level 2 studies, the engineering consulting firm actually directly in engineering and the drilling contractor. Ultimately, that has led to a proposal which I think has been accepted, where the drilling contractor will be hiring a subcontractor to perform the drilling services. Very late break night, we received executed subcontract agreements associated with that work, and we are anticipating that the subcontractor driller will be mobilizing to the site in the next few days to begin surface casing operations for this test well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed for a successful drilling effort this go around. Associated with the project. Current contract expires June 30th, 2025, and we're looking to extend this to June 30th, 2026, just in recognition of the idea that some testing will have to occur, and report generation, evaluating the feasibility of some pipeline alignments, hoping for a successful test well. If there are any questions, I would be happy to field those, Madam Chair. And also, I believe that Levi Heim with Weston Engineering is available if there are any specifics related to the consultant themselves.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah,
Zucker.
Madam Chair. I guess I would ask if or if there was a well that was plugged, that was drilled or partially drilled. Isn't that correct?
Madam Chair.
So we moved over and we're doing another one?
Yeah, the first test borehole it did not reach the depth that we were targeting. Candidly, not really even particularly close. We're looking at something on the order of, maybe 1,600 feet deep, and the original test hole was unsuccessful at no more than 450 feet deep. So that particular borehole has been plugged and abandoned, and this new effort would be stepping over and beginning anew, essentially.
So when you have an incident like that, who bore the cost, I guess, my question? Or was there enough in the original scope to allow for that additional?
Madam Chair, that's an excellent question. I suspect that there will still be some sort of negotiations between our consultant and the contractor with regard to those. I have taken the position for the office and on behalf of the commission that we already have paid money toward getting to essentially 450 feet. And it is our expectation that we will not be paying money to regain progress that was already made under an earlier borehole.
Thank you,
Madam
George.
Chair,
Commissioner, Vice Chair Craig.
I believe this question was asked before when this conversation came up, maybe in May. Was it determined that the reason for the failure of the ability to reach bottom on this original test hole was operator error or some unforeseen circumstances, underground fractures and other things that they had no knowledge about when they started?
Madam Chair, Vice Chairman Craig, yeah, I think we did. And I guess what I would say is that there will probably continue to be some discussions between our consultant and the contractor with regard to responsibilities and who might ultimately bear the burden of those things. But just as we explained during the May workshop, this certainly is a difficult drilling environment. However, those difficulties were well known and well described in advance of entering the contract for the drilling effort.
Good. And thanks for following back on that. Any further questions on it for George? Okay, and thank you, Levi, also for
Here.
Commissioner Pence.
What are the chances of that happening again? I mean, you say it's a tough place to drill or a tough environment to drill in. What are the chances of that happening again? And what is our liability on that? Are we just going to keep throwing money at the next guy and the next guy?
George?
Madam Chair, thank you, Commissioner Pence, for that question. As I explained before, it's my position that we knew enough about the drilling environment and had every reason to expect those challenges. Therefore, I don't think that the commission or the office is of the position that will pay more money to try to regain progress that was already made. A challenging drilling environment. The nature of the aquifer that we are exploring in this area is really going to be dominated by how much fractures and permeability is available. The more broken up it is and the more secondary permeability, the better the chance of a highly productive well. So there is a balance with that, perhaps, but in the back of my mind, I do hope that it's a little bit challenging because that increases the chance of having a highly productive well.
Thank you, George. Any further questions? Seeing none, I would look, thank you, George. We would look for a motion to approve amendment number 5 to the Douglas, extending it to 6/30 of 26.
Second.
Okay, a move by Vice Chair Craig and seconded by Commissioner Pence. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is passed. Thank you, Mr. Heim, for being here, and George, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it. That closes out our planning amendments. So then I think we'll be welcoming Jody to do the small water project program amendments. Welcome, Jody.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I would also like to invite amendment.
Great. Welcome, Caleb. We appreciate you coming down.
So this purpose of this amendment is basically just a time-only amendment. And it's my understanding that there, as we have seen on other small water projects, there's a bit of a difficulty in getting drillers to commit to coming out to drill a well on a project. I have heard of that in Laramie County as well. So there seems to be a bit of a shortage. And with that, I'll have Caleb go into further detail.
Okay, Caleb, welcome here. Show you, there's your mic.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity to come here and provide a little insight or background on this project. So this is a project that we initiated with the landowner. And a couple of things that happened with this is after we got funding and engineering design was finalized, the landowner had some changes they wanted to make in locations of some items, mainly the extension of the pipeline and additional stock tank that was installed. And so that partly that was part of the process that we had to go through initially. And then after that, the landowner was able to obtain materials. They've got the pipeline in the ground. They've got the stock tank in the ground. They've said, yep, we'll be there. And the next month is like, yep, we'll be there. And and now here we are. And so, yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. And I know a lot of folks in our area, our region, have been dealing with that same challenge as well with other projects that we've done. And in some cases, some people have gotten lucky because their neighbor had a driller on site and they were like able to get them to just jump over the fence and do their project really quick. And in other instances, we've had to wait for a long time to get somebody in. The driller that they have been waiting tied up on some projects in South Dakota and trying to so that's some the challenge we've been up against with that. So,
And just one other thing, Madam Chair, this project is set to expire in 2 weeks at the end of the month. So we will very quickly email some documents to Caleb if you guys choose to approve the amendment. So it's on a short timeline.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Jody. Appreciate it. And Caleb, thanks. Any questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Seeing no questions, then we would look for approval of the Heiser Well Pipeline Extension Amendment number 1, which would extend the time only. Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make that a motion to extend the Heiser Well and Pipeline Project, Pipeline Extension Project Extension number 1.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Cott. Do I have a Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Close out memos. Bill, welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chairman. My name's Bill Brewer, Deputy Director of Construction. We have one construction project to close out today. This is the Northwest Rural Water System Improvements 2020 project. This is the sponsor for this is the Northwest Rural Water District. And this project primarily upgraded some pumps and valves in part of their system to increase flows in that area. The original funding for the project was $676,700, which was a 67% grant with 33% coming from the district. Engineering on the project came in at a little over $142,000, which was slightly under the budget for the project. The winning bidder was Western Municipal. There was 7 bidders received on this project. And the final contract amount was $816,000 and change. There was some miscellaneous costs related to title of opinion and the closeout advertisement. In the end, the final project cost was a little under $960,000. And the WWDC funding share of that was a little under $643,000. Reverted to account 1. Overall, this was a pretty cut and dry project. However, there was a slight contracting issue with an invoice. It did take some time to get that cleared up. So you see the project actually concluded in 21. However, it took about 2 years to get contracting issues straightened out to close the project. So in the end, the project closed out and was all worked out fine, but it did take a little bit of time to get it closed out compared to a normal project.
Great, thank you, Bill. And we'll look for questions, but I don't think we have to, we don't have to prove this. This is just for our information. That's what I thought. So any questions for Bill? So was it just paperwork?
So we did not want to close the project out until we had documentation.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Aladdin Well.
Madam Chair, while George is coming up, I
Mhm.
believe this is under page
56.
56, yes.
Okay, page 56 of our e-notebook, and welcome back, George.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we have two kind of points to keep in mind as we talk through this. The Aladdin Well is related to the office's ongoing efforts to try to seek resolution on some of these, state financed or state paid for idle wells. And another just global thing to consider here is that in the case of the Aladdin Well, the commission actually owns the parcel of land where this well is located. It's not a sizable piece of property, but it's nevertheless, the commission does own this property. For a little bit of project background, the Aladdin Water District was established in 1993. And shortly thereafter, the Water Development Commission authorized a level 1 study to look at developing a water supply system for both Aladdin, but also surrounding areas that would be part of that district. That ultimately led to a level 2 well drilling project in 1995, where the commission drilled and cased a well. Total cost for at the conclusion of the level 2 project, this particular effort never proceeded to level 3 construction. Our understanding, and this is me just looking back at historic records, this district was going to be rather large, and some of the landowners that were kind of associated with this larger and expanded service area didn't really want to be part of the project, and so they withdrew. As a result of that, the debt service undercurrent of local opposition to the project, which kind of hampered some of the discussions for it. Once that project did not progress, once we failed to go to a level 3 construction project, the Water Development Commission received a request to utilize the well or at least place it in 1999. Session laws set up a system whereby the district could pay the Water Development Commission on a basis associated with their water production, and also allowed for some water sales to occur to WYDOT if there was a traffic project that required some water in that area. The current water service contract specifies $2 per 1,000 gallons produced. And over time, the resulting payments for that have come in from the Aladdin Water District to the Water Development Commission have ranged from about $200 to a little bit over $1,000 a year. So a little bit of money, but to suffice it to say that that's not, it's not a particularly large amount of money. The Water Development Commission has considered this well many times. And meetings mostly coinciding with whether to extend the service contract with the water district, or to try to encourage them to go to a level 3 project or acquire the well in some way. And that ultimately led to the office outlining several different options associated with at that point in time, the commission encouraged the district to apply for a loan to finance a purchase of the well. And they also future promise of contract extensions. Nevertheless, for various reasons, the contract has been extended, extended in 2019, 21, 2023. So in consideration of that, we kind of think that there are we think that there are essentially 3 different ways to proceed. I think the office is recommending proceeding with some sort of option different than the water sales agreement because of our experience during 2020, where the EPA essentially discovered that there were some problems during their routine sanitary survey. They had a couple of different things that they saw on the wellhead, a couple of deficiencies noted to their storage tanks. And by their determination, the Water Development Commission ended up being named as a party to that notice and that administrative order. So that certainly raises some flags for the office with respect to the commission's continued involvement in this water sales agreement, and kind of brings to a head this whole notion of what are we doing with idle wells? How are we making progress with them? So we have identified 3 options with respect to the Aladdin well. The first is that we can utilize A&I procedures. The Department of Administration and Information has procedures reasonable for them to continue to maintain. It's a similar process to, when office furniture becomes broken, it goes to A&I and they can auction it or that sort of a thing. I guess the office's evaluation of that is that there are significant administrative costs especially if there are future EPA issues related to it. The most recent payment that the commission received is on the order of $500 for annual water use for this. So in order to do that, the Water Development Commission would need to find that the parcel of property, real property on which the well is located, is no longer cost effective to the state. And that option would require an amendment to a particular statute. From a timing perspective, that's why we find ourselves in front of you here, is that, with session only being kind of once a year, we're kind of at a decision point of whether we can engage one of these other options or whether we would continue to do the water sales agreement. The second option that we have looked at, and the one ultimately that the office is supportive of, is transferring the property and well for a nominal charge to the district. At the district's most recent meeting, which was November, and I think it's fair to say that this district, because they have 12, maybe 14 taps, they really don't feel like they have the ability to take on debt service. They just don't financially feel like they are in a place to be able to do that. And so they discussed and were in favor basically of they would take over the well if there was some sort of low cost way to transfer it. And they would be able to take that on and continue incorporating the well and the water into that small water system that's associated with Aladdin. They did express concern about the well's age. We're talking about something that's getting to be 30 years old now. And we're a little bit concerned as to what its future lifespan might be. So they were reluctant in my advice to the commission. I don't find anything that leads me to believe that this well is at risk of imminent failure. Certainly due to its construction and time of construction, it was constructed for public water supply standards. I think it's not a particularly problematic well. Nevertheless, the board does have those concerns. If a low-cost transfer isn't available, the board members basically said they would really have no other choice but to extend that water service contract. This again, option 2, and the one that the office is supporting here, would require a statutory amendment. Both of those two this construction bill. So we've thought a little bit about what proposed amendment language might be for that if you choose to go down one of those two paths. The final option would be to extend the water service contract. This is just purely a status quo, preserving the current situation. The current contract expires July 16th, 2025. And the commission certainly reserves the right within that to change the rate and renegotiate a different rate. In summary, just, you know, the situation that there's a small parcel of land here, it's a 20-foot by 20-foot square of property with the well associated. And in light of the administrative costs to service this contract, potential challenges related to EPA compliance and needing to maintain this as a public water supply system, the office recommends that the Water Development Commission transfer the property using option 2 that I outlined, which is the low cost transfer. And provided for your consideration there at the bottom of page 2 of the memo is a suggested motion for that option.
Thank you, George. And I'm not familiar with the statute and we say what's going to happen to them after the fact as we go forward. Is that our new plan?
Madam Chair, if you would like, I do actually have, and David or Katie can probably bring up the statute related to this supply project. It's under the Title 99 statutes, 99.3.303. And you would be able to see sort of the first part of your question. The second part is that right now, we're essentially obliged to re-enter renewals of the agreement. I don't know that there's right now, there is not a mechanism to end that, so to speak. The office is certainly supportive of trying to create something like that. And I think it would be our intent if you are agreeable to option 2 is that we would work in language that says that this is the ability to do this is going to go away. We would no longer have the ability to enter into these water sales agreements.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I had a question. What happens?
Well, Madam Chair, if I understand the question correct, that would be the status quo option 3 kind of idea where we would just potentially renegotiate the contract in the spring.
Would we have to renegotiate the contract?
George?
Um,
I-
Madam Chair, it's my interpretation that yes, we would be obliged to renegotiate that contract.
The problem, I think, George, and I think Commissioner Kaylee, the problem is we own the land that this well sits on. So otherwise, if we don't, then suddenly we're back with this well under our operation. I guess it'd be my concern and subject to dealing with it. I think our overall position is going to be starting going forward is we're trying to have a plan when we enter into these water drilling agreements, what we're going to do with the well after, and not to own the land and to get rid of some of these idle wells. So I could see why you're recommending option 2, which is to say, let's amend the statute and be able to sell it at an de minimis cost, a nominal charge. And I think you could determine that by seeing how much, they pay every year for what they do pay. I don't even know what that is and what the costs are. I mean, let you figure that price out. But do you want to ask a further question, Commissioner Kennedy?
Yeah, this particular well isn't an idle well though, right? I mean, they're getting use out of it and they're paying a pretty minimal amount for it, correct?
Madam Chair, yeah, this well has appeared historically on the idle well list just by virtue of the idea that there's been really no final disposition related to it. The commission still a relatively low cost transfer in this case is that we would be able to remove it from the idle well list, clean up some of
Thanks.
Thank
Matt?
you.
Madam Chairman, I just wanted to say, I did pull up, so you can see the conditions there under B. It says the Aladdin Water District shall be granted the option of renewing and renegotiating a subsequent water service contract. So I do think that as long as this language status quo requires us to keep selling them water, the option, the way this would get amended would be to take all of that out and to say, hey, commission, you go transfer this well to these people. And it kind of just change, it gets the Water Development Commission out of being the middleman for this water supply system.
Thank you for that, going to the actual agreement first. I appreciate you pulling that up. Sorry, Commissioner Craig?
Madam Chair, George, I have a couple of questions. I'd like some clarification with respect to idle well. It is on the idle well list, but if I understand correctly, there are 14 taps that are currently using water, even though it's on the idle well list.
Madam Chair, that's accurate, just because the idle well list was something by way of tracking what things the commission still had is unused in the sense of idle. It certainly is being placed to use.
Okay, so then another question with regards to that. In the 2020 report.
Madam Chair, they have.
And then the final question with regards to that. The commission owns the 20 by 20 parcel and I assume owns the well as well.
Owns.
And
and access authority over the surrounding land in order to maintain or provide O&M on the well.
so if we were to accept your recommendation to follow through with option 2, we would transfer all of that to a district that's really not a district. I don't know how they function now.
Madam Chair, we would transfer it to the district. They are a special district that's authorized under the county. So they are a public entity for which the commission could transfer the project.
And then this is another with regards to the number of taps. I saw something here about where was it at? Not at recognized number of taps to, where did I see that toward the top?
14 was below the number.
Yes, that's what I was looking for, below the number of. Yeah, what is the number? What do we normally look for as far as number of taps that we would?
15.
Madam Chair, Commissioner. 15.
15?
That's in our criteria. It used to be 20, if I remember right. I'll say a decade ago. I'm not sure if that's totally accurate, but again, this project was originally started in like the early 90s. So it's been around for a while.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kelly, do you have?
This question would probably be for the attorney's office. Are we okay even discussing real estate transactions in the non-executive?
Person using it, and it would be a nominal, you have the option of going into executive session, but you're not required to. And we're not really talking about a public sale. Like if A&I was doing this, they'd be talking about a value in negotiations, but that's not really, we're talking about getting statutory language to just say, shall transfer this to the people using it.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you for that. Thank you for the help on that as well. So I had a quick question about it too. I think, how many other wells how many other land parcels do we own? I remember we talked about this, I think there's another one that we own too, that we don't maybe even have an easement to, isn't it something like that?
Madam Chair, broadly speaking, there's a whole universe of these things for which the well itself is located on state lands. That's actually the largest part of the population. And in those instances, we typically do not have any easement or access associated with them. There's another subset that are wells where they're located on private property and we do have easement and access. There's a third population where they're located on private property and we do not have easement and access. And this is a bit of a rarity in that it's the only one that I can find where the commission actually owns the property.
Thank you. I was just trying to remember if there was another piece, but it's really not the business of the Wyoming Water Development Office in my mind, or for us to really own land. It's just not our way. So I would urge us to go with option 2 rather than keep on extending the contract, which, it sounds like the people of the district could go ahead and extend it at their option under the contract per what we heard. So my view would be to kind of work toward the option 2 if that's amenable. But do you have further questions on that, Commissioner Katie? Because I know you were asking about an option 4 of doing nothing, but I think that comes back to them extending the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Suker.
Madam Chair, I guess I thought about this quite a while, and I really think that would we set a precedent if we conveyed it? I really believe that it should be a sale of some sort. Now, the difference between the sale and a conveyance, I know you can give somebody something for $1 or $10. That's really not a sell. It's kind of a conveyance, right? But if you sell something and put some kind of a price on it, because I hate to set a precedent for these wells so that we own them and we're going to give them away now. That's the only reason. I don't care how it is. In my opinion, would it be better to be a sale? That's my question. Thank you.
George, Director.
Madam Chair, I don't know that that I have a direct answer for that, other than to just remind the commission that because over the course of time, the commission has been by agreement selling water to the district. This particular district is paid just a little bit over $8,000 over time associated with the water use. So I guess just to clarify, in some sense, the district has paid money associated with this well.
And essentially, what we would probably enter into, in my mind, correct me, Director, and ask you and George, is an agreement to sell it. It would just be for the value, you know, some value. I mean, we would have to sign an agreement with them, a contract.
Madam Chair, yeah, it would be a nominal value, such as what you suggested, $1, $10, something very little. But this is a unique project. I would agree. The commission's not in the business of owning property, nor are we in the business of selling water on a long-term basis. So I guess one thing I'd like to point out is we have this water sales agreement. In that water sales agreement, you know, we own the well, but the district owns the pump, the well house, metering components, appurtenances, et cetera. And we even have in our agreement, and we have had in the agreement since the first water sales, was that the commission makes no warranty or representation concerning the quality of the water sold, and the district is responsible for compliance with all state and federal water quality standards. So regardless of us pointing that out to the EPA when they had their deficiencies, EPA didn't care. They were still involving us, and it was a little difficult. It took time to get them, as in the district, to follow through with what the EPA required. So far outweighing the $300 or $400 that we got paid for water that year. So in my mind, the value of, you know, at a nominal fee, providing that to the district is much more valuable than, I guess, the opportunity for us to be named in a future EPA order and a liability associated with that.
Okay, thank you, Director. Commissioner Abigail, if you don't mind, Commissioner Craig. Is that okay?
I had additional information to provide Commissioner Suker. The way I've been kind of viewing in this mine is almost like a lease to own. We've been leasing them water for 25 years and they've been paying for that. So this nominal fee at the end, you know, I think the way we could structure this is in consideration of 25 years worth of payments, including them, they paid for it to fix the EPA issue. We didn't pay for that. That it's not just we're giving it to them. Now, have we given it to them 25 years ago, which is why I think we own this and we are the project sponsors. If you look at the legislation, it's because we weren't going to give them this well. Now that calculus under our statutes sort of and how we look at, you know, what is the cost to the state? What's the benefit in that balance in terms of making recommendations? You're edging more to where it is more beneficial to the state to turn this over to the district. They've paid money. It's not like our typical grant loan split, but they do have skin in the game at this point. And so I think that's how I've been viewing it.
Madam Chair, I might just add one more thing is
Sure.
When we originally started talking about this again, 2019, 2020, after the commission in 2018 said proceed forward with, you know, having them purchase the well, they looked at I know at least through SLIB, trying to get principal forgiveness loan through them. That didn't work out. I don't remember the exact reasons on why that didn't work out, but they did try to pursue funding to purchase the well at 33%. This is not, I mean, it's fairly destitute, in my opinion, area. Some of those taps are actually trailers, a trailer park, and there's 3 trailers on, you know, 1 year, and one moves out and one moves in. So they've attempted to do that in the past. I think if we are asking for a certain amount of money, we're just going to end up basically continuing the water sales agreement.
Thank you, Director.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sorry about that. Commissioner Craig.
George, do you know of our abandoned wells, so-called abandoned wells? Because I'm beginning to think now that maybe some of them aren't necessarily abandoned. Are there other wells that are on the abandoned well list that are being used for livestock or household taps or otherwise that we still have responsibility for?
Madam Chair, to the best of my recollection and thinking about the list now, no, this is the only one where there's a current user.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Commissioner Kaylee? No. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Kate. Oh. Maybe. No, that's just a yellow thing there. Okay, sorry. I can't see what it is myself. All right, so we have the motion, which is
I'll read it.
good. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move that the commission has no further project-related interest in the Aladdin well and direct the office to prepare language to include in the omnibus bill, water bill, construction authorizing transfer of the Aladdin well and associated parcel of real property to the Aladdin Water District.
Thank you for the motion from Commissioner Kaylee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Craig. Discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is passed. Thank you, George. Do we need a break? Or are we good to go on? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break real quick since we have plenty of time. 25 legislature. And I think the director is going to walk us through both of the bills, the planning and the construction. And so he's going to do it in a kind fashion, he said, right?
Madam Chair, I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible. So to start with, if you turn to page 60 for those online, you should have a summary sheet for the planning bill. And then on page 66, there's a summary sheet for the construction bill. I've handed that out here to commissioners, so they have the paper copy of each one of those, an 11 by 17 big sheet of paper folded up. And that's really just to be able to, we're going to try to work through, especially the construction bill, more in the spreadsheet. So we're not going page by page. You'll see on the planning, the way it's laid out is the first column is when you turn to the bill, which is on the next page, page 61. It gives you where that particular project lies, you know, page 2, the plan, and then the construction. First column, you've got the project name, the location, which account the funding is coming out of, a short description, and the construction bill is very similar. The spreadsheet or the summary sheet for the
different things, except for obviously the amendment that we want to add in on the Aladdin well.
Madam Chair, that's correct. These are all things that came out of the May meeting, then the rehab. So it can go to the legislature and be considered by the different committees. And tomorrow, Select Water Committee will look at the same bill or an amended bill that comes out of the commission for consideration to then give it their approval. So you will vote on the bill at the end, but individual projects you've already voted on at the last
Okay,
meeting.
so at the end, we'll have to have a motion to vote on the planning bill and the construction bill, correct?
Madam Chair, correct.
And do we have to say it's subject to the Aladdin one, or that's fine because we've already approved that amendment?
Madam Chair, when we get to that, we'll go through at the end of the construction bill what that amendment looks like. And then I suppose the motion would be as amended with Aladdin or something in it.
Okay. And finally, the last thing I just wanted to make sure to note for everyone on the Water Commission is that the meeting tomorrow is at 8:30 in the Capitol Extension. So it's downtown. It's not here tomorrow. For those of you who want to go to the Select Water meeting, and I think E5, number 5 is pretty, you'll see people in there. So it's not a big deal, but again, you'll be parking down by the Capitol, and it's in the extension where we all did the interviews for the consultants. All right, go ahead, proceed then.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig looks slightly confused. That's where you were involved in the consultant selection.
I'm generally confusing.
So, but if anybody needs directions on, and then which hallway to walk and all that stuff, get together with us at the meeting. We'll remind you.
Yeah, okay, just want to
Okay.
make sure everyone knew that it starts at 8:30, and so we're set. You have a question, Commissioner?
Yeah,
Kennedy?
and can we get online?
Yeah, it's online. I don't know if you can make comments because you have to submit, if you want to make comments, usually for
24 hours.
meetings, you sometimes have to submit it so long in advance.
Oh.
Isn't it 24 hours? I'm not sure how it works if you're on the Water Commission, if you're allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I'll
think-
probably fine, just watch it.
And you can watch it, and if you want, I think you can go and sign on up for online comment. I don't know the latest on when that deadline is.
Okay, sorry, I don't remember either. I thought it was 24 before, but that was COVID and all those kind of random things, but thanks. Okay, proceed, Director.
Okay, Madam Chair, when I talk about page numbers now, so we are on page 61, which is the bill, the planning bill. And I'm going to refer just going to run through real quick because it's short and you'll we're authorizing level studies and appropriations associated with those, providing reversion dates of that money, and then providing an effective date for when the bill becomes effective by law. And then if you move over to page 2, section 1 is the level 1 reconnaissance new development. So that's our Hewlett master plan and UW water research. At the very bottom, you'll see those total $534,998. The language under section 1, so line, and when I say line, you're looking over on the left side of the page, you see 1, 2, 3 down the left. That set that account up. If there's a project within this section and there's money left over and there's money needed for another project in that section, upon select water committee approval, that can be moved over if needed. It doesn't happen very often. A reversion date, and at the prior to 2027, we'll have to provide a report to the legislature, which we do every year through our legislative reports. So that's that. Then moving on to page 3. So again, that's our new development, one master plan, one water research program. On to page 3. This is the same thing, except for count 2 rehab studies. And that paragraph, you see it under Pioneer Canal, Smith. And then moving on to page 4 or section 3. Again, very similar to the previous 2 explanations of where funding's coming from and associated statutes. And then down there on line Hoosier River storage study that we discussed back in May and again in June for $551,000. And then down on line 20, there's the start of section 4, which again just provides the effective date for the bill becoming law. So with that, I would ask if you guys have any questions on the planning bill.
Commissioners, any questions on the planning bill? Okay, it's fairly straightforward. Thank you for that. And moving on to the construction.
Okay, I'll get my glasses out here. A lot of stuff on this one. Okay, so the construction bill, I'll kind of remind everybody on the unique things that we aren't used to and how we put those into the bill. So on page 1, sorry, I lost my page 1 here. Okay, well, page 1, oh, it's on the back of this page. Sorry. Okay, page 1 is again just the introduction, very similar to the planning bill. We've got authorization to construct designated water projects, describing the projects, specifying terms and conditions, providing grants, providing loans, providing appropriations. We're amending the sponsors contingency account 2 fund. There are some amendment of projects, and we are transferring money from account 1 to account 2. And then we are also of the bill. And then you move on to page 2, and you've got section 1. It references the construction authorization legislation for any level 3 construction project is located in Title 99. So last year's 2024 bill would have been 99.3, 2901 through 2904. So this year we just move on sequentially, 99.3, 3001 through 3004. And then as you move down, 3001 is definitions. 3002 is general authorization, and it references Title 99 general provisions, which provide, again, definitions, authorizations, and then that, yeah. So then we move on to 99.3 on line 15, 99.3, 3003. And that's where we start talking about our actual construction projects. And this is new development projects. And then we'll see eventually here when we get to rehab, that's when it will change to 99.3, 3004. And language there under there at the bottom of page 2, where we are authorizing, authorization is granted for level 3 development, and it's subject to, again, general conditions. One of these is an O&M account requirement, but that's only required All right, so I'll move over to page 3. And here, just a general explanation as a reminder. So line 1, we have the project name, Bighorn Regional Joint Powers Board. On line 4, we've got the project sponsor. Moving down to line 7, the purpose. The project description. Just a unique thing here is that this is for design and pre-construction only, not design and construction. They'll come back when they have all their design and easements in place. So that's spelled out there on lines 10 and 11. As what their responsibility is. In this case, it's 50-50. So that's the entire amount for pre-construction. Moving on down to line 18 is project grant. And it talks again about for design, permit procurement, project land procurement, pre-construction engineering, and then spilling onto page 4 is the actual grant amount, $405,000 or 50%. And then page 4, line 4 is where the appropriation shows up in the same amount of our grant, $405,000. At the bottom of that paragraph on line 9 is when that money would revert, July 1st of 2030. And you'll see that on all the new projects that same date. We have 5 years to complete the. So that's how all of these new projects are going to be laid out, just as a reminder from last year. Any questions so far?
Commission? Okay, no questions? Thank you.
Okay. Through each one of these, we're going to jump to page 11 now. And I could, I guess, real quickly say everything in section 1 of the bill is going to be the 3 projects. So I'm looking at the summary sheet here. We've got Bighorn Regional. We've got the 2 cloud seeding programs, Hoback Junction, the SAW Joint Powers Board, Upper Road Transmission, and then small water development projects for new development. And so that's where I'm going to jump to next is page 11, that small water projects. So we're doing something a little different than what we normally do. In the past, we have gone back and amended every year the original legislation that set up the small water project program, whether it be in new development or our rehab account. And what that has done over time is projects for new development. And every year we're amending, another $500,000 or another. For this year, well, no, we're just amending the old legislation. So you just see that building of dollars. And in addition to that, so we're setting it up as basically we're starting over with a new project. And this will be, so we look on page or the line 6 of page 11. We call it Small Water Development Projects, New Development 2025. So it's 2025 projects. And we think that'll just simplify the budgeting and accounting process rather than continuing to mend and prevent confusion and be a little bit more transparent on what we're actually appropriating each year. So that's how we've laid this out. Let's see. Next, I will move on to page, so the next ones would be the rehabilitation projects, getting back to the spreadsheet. Or rehab, small water projects for rehab. And the first one that's somewhat unique is Cottonwood. So jump to page 8. This is a Cottonwood Irrigation District Pipeline Replacement 2025. That they've requested of water development. So if you move on to page 19. under project loan. So I'm looking at line 10 on page 19. They've asked for basically a 50% loan on the pre-construction costs. That was estimated around $94,000 if I remember right. So they don't want to hold up design of the project while they are going after their federal funding. So the grant portion is for pre-construction and construction dollars, and then this small $47,000 loan for 50% of just the pre-construction. So when we talked about this in November, $47,000 of the entire project is 4.26%. But in reality, what we're talking about is 50% of the pre-construction cost. So that's lined out in lines 12 and 13 for the design, permit, procurement, and project land. Whichever is less. So just want to make sure there wasn't confusion with 50% and 4.26. You might not remember those numbers from November, but okay. And then moving on to page 20. This is the Eden Valley Farson Lateral 4A 2025 project. And this one, they are getting funding, again, federal funding, NRCS grant, and that covers 100% of the engineering. That would be both design and construction management engineering. So when we look down design and construction. All right, and then jumping to page 28. Next somewhat unique thing, but we've seen these in the past, is 100% materials only project. And that would be Sidon Irrigation District Canal Crossing. And we're down near the bottom of the page. So we're then going to move on to page 29. So when you look on, now I'll take you down to the grant section. So that'd be lines 10 through 17. As you read down through that, you'll see on line 15, there's $432,000 or 100 conditions starting on line 5, and then A and B, that the sponsor is responsible for project costs with the exception of the purchase of project materials as supported by vendor invoices. And then moving on down more or less what 100% materials cost project is. So just wanted to point that out. Okay, then again, on page 30, we're going to create a new project, and we're going to do that in the years moving forward too. All right, so then I'll move on to page 35. The very bottom of page 35, line 22 is where West Afton phase 1 project starts. And if you recall, West Afton didn't meet the acreage requirement at the November meeting. And at the end of the meeting, when we were trying to determine how much money needed to be transferred from account 1 to account 2, we needed roughly another 1.3 million on top of the money that we were going to be adding to account 2 sponsors contingency. And because they didn't meet the criteria, it was determined that West Afton would be the project that would be contingent upon the transfer of funds. We'll move over to page 37. At the very bottom is the special condition for West Afton, and that's where it spells out that the appropriation is dependent upon that transfer. And that spills onto page 38. The actual transfer of funds is in section 3, which we'll get to here. And okay, so now moving down to the sponsor's contingency account. page 40. There. These are all the amendments and the associated Title 99 session laws that are going to be amended. This is kind of just a summary of all the where these are all located in previous Title 99s, and they're in chronological order based on the project. So there's account 1 and account 2 mixed into that section 2 summary there. Wouldn't get too concerned about that. Going down to line 12 on page 40 is where we start the sponsors contingency fund. And we're adding funding to that in the amount of 2.9 million. The unique thing here is, let's see here. When you project loans, and when we were going through the language here in the sponsors contingency account, it says, let's see, the state of Wyoming shall loan to sponsors from water development account 2 through the commission sufficient supplemental funds which may be used to complete construction of projects up to an amount not to exceed 33% of the difference between the original project budget and the actual cost of the construction at an annual rate of 4%. And since we were amending this and we have loans this year in the amount of 50%, I wanted to amend. There could be potential in the future where if we need to use sponsors contingency funds out of account 2 and we need to supplement their loan, that loan might be a 50% loan and not a 33% loan. So again, just kind of fixing that based on what we've been talking about here, moving to 50% grants instead of 67% grants. So we're covered. Okay, I don't really have any other unique things in the amendments section. So in all, we've got 12 project amendments, whether most of them are for time, some are for a little additional funding. And then we've got, like I just mentioned, the account 2 sponsor contingency increase in funds. And then if we move on to page 53. Section 3. Is at the bottom of the page, line 19 on page 53. And that's where we start talking about, we're going to transfer $4.2 million from account 1 to account 2. I just mentioned that a few minutes ago, and that's to cover the overage. We can have an overrun in account 2. And then the last thing would be, caught up with myself here. Okay, so then page 54, line 4 is, this is where, if you recall back in, well, we've been talking about idle wells today. We started that conversation in August quite a bit. And we had talked about having a conversation with the Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities for their Belvoir 5 and 6 wells that have been So after that discussion, we had a proposal from the Board of Public Utilities that we discussed at the November meeting, and where they'd like to purchase those wells for 100% of the construction costs. And what this does is just allows for that that purchase or that transfer for the amount of $218,000, which is down on line 1954. And that's for the, like I said, the expense of the pre-development costs. So if this is acceptable to you and moves through the legislature, then you would expect in March, once the bill is purchased between the Water Development Commission and the Board of Public Utilities. Okay. All right. Are there any questions so far before we kind of bring up how we'd like to amend in Aladdin?
Any questions, Commission? No? No questions.
Okay. Could you guys bring that up on the screen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A proposed amendment oddly, there are some conforming things that need to happen that are up at the top of this page, but the real meat of what we're looking at starts on line 15. And what this essentially does is amend the existing project-specific legislation way back from established in 1999, taking out this idea that the commission would be providing water to facilitate highway construction, authorization to sell water from the well, turning those things into basically that it's the well is going to be for rural domestic water supply, and authorizing the commission to transfer it. The special conditions is the place where we've attempted to embrace this idea of transferring the well to Aladdin upon meeting a series of 3 criteria. First off, finding by the commission that it has no further project related interest in the well, and then of course executing an agreement between the commission and the district to transfer this project. One of the other pieces that's significant here is you'll find on page 2, line 8, is that we are adding a section under the construction omnibus bill, which portion shall enter into an agreement and sell the water. The commission shall enter into agreements with YDOT to sell them water, and would essentially leave what remains of that project specific legislation as the red line that you're finding mostly on page 2 and page 1. So by doing so, things get a little bit messy because the repeal section happens as a different section of the construction bill. So you'll find that there's an inserting of a new section, renumbering the include a description of the things that this bill is doing, to include repealing obsolete provisions, changing transfer of a singular project to now it being if you would like, I can go through that line by line with more detail, but I think this is the office's attempt to be able to have something that becomes the tool that commission and then ultimately Select Water uses to amend what's currently being considered as the construction bill.
Okay. Thank you, George. And yeah, the trick is the title of the bill has to address all the sections of the bill. It's very difficult. People says it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. George, a question came up when we were on our break. Is there any potential for pushback from the legislature on transfer of this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, your guess is as good as mine on that. We are attempting to help the district and the state of I don't see any negative sides of any of this really, but can't predict what the legislature is going to do.
Follow Commissioner Craig.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Zucker.
I guess in the conveyance, when you convey this, and I guess it's called conveyance, we're not going to sell it, right?
Transfer. For, yeah.
I guess you could do it by legal description for what's on it instead of doing it by the well. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but we own the well and we own the property, correct? And we have a legal description of that property. By just a conveyance of that property.
Madam
Because
Chair.
you buy what's on that property when you make a conveyance or purchase, right?
Madam Chair, just as a reminder, this is the legislation which would enable the ultimate transfer, and the commission will find themselves considering at some point in the future the actual instrument that will convey that land and that well. So at that point, we'll know more specifics about what that'll entail.
All right, so I'm premature there. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, it's just like I mentioned on Belvoir, come next March, when unfortunately you're not going to be around,
Right.
we will have an agreement for this transfer to Aladdin. Yeah.
And you know, that's going to make peace of mind. I've been after that well for 7 years, I think.
That's right.
But, and after the other wells for a long time, but yeah, I think it's a good thing. And I think George will sleep better now too. Don't you, George? You got wells in your head?
Madam Chair, I spent some time last night thinking about this, yes.
Thank you for doing it because I know it's a challenge.
Well, George, the only question I think I have is, why aren't you wearing a Christmas bow tie like our festive to the left of me? Just asking. I'm suspecting, if you're there tomorrow, we'll want to see more festivity.
Madam Chair, be careful with that. I have a traditional tie that's Christmas themed that I might bring out, and I don't know that anybody really wants to see that.
All right, well, that's good. Okay, any further questions on it? I think thanks for racing to a draft for us on that. So that's great. Thank you. And any further questions on this? And I agree with Director Mead. You just don't really know. In general, in my experience, the water bill goes through, select water gets up, they say it, and people, they look at this 55-page bill and they think, I don't want to read through all this, they're like, so I don't think it's going to be a big issue, but you never know. People, it's a different legislature, very different set of people. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. All right. Did you want to go over the legislative process discussion then with us, Director Mead? Thank you, George.
Madam Chair, I can do that if you guys want to make a motion on the planning and the construction bills.
Right. Subject to with the conclusion of the Aladdin well language, correct?
Yeah, as revised with Aladdin language.
So essentially what we're looking for is a motion to approve the omnibus water bill planning and the omnibus water bill construction with the addition of the Aladdin well language, correct?
Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, great. Moved by Commissioner Pence.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kaylee. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
To the agenda. Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I want to say about the legislative process is lobbying, and the definition of lobbying is somewhat ambiguous when you actually get down to it. And we don't want to be, it doesn't want to appear that we are trying to influence legislation. We could provide factual have a unified voice, and we're not questions are more policy related questions. So in that case, we'd want to involve the governor's office so they're aware of things too. So again, just keep me informed if you're getting questions. If it's a simple question, don't worry about asking it if you're confident you know the answer, but let me know. So I know there were questions and how they were answered. And if there's something more complex that you don't feel comfortable with, or if you just want to defer to myself on any of them, that's fine too. And I'd be happy to answer them and then reach back out and tell you how that conversation went. So that's the only thing. Requiring commission action. David's got a technical service agreement from the Bureau of Reclamation that I'm going to have him pull up. some time ago, we had a contributing funds agreement or a technical service agreement, as Bureau of Reclamation calls them. And that allows them to provide engineering services and technical services to our office because they have special knowledge. Are put together and added as part of those technical service agreements. So, and then over time, in this particular case, it was originally set up for the Eden project, which is the Big Sandy project, Big Sandy Reservoir project. And then at one point we amended with Bureau of Reclamation, amended in the Lyman project so we could talk about state lines and Meek's Cabin, and they did some risk analysis type work when we were looking at enlarging those two facilities. And then also brought in the Seatskiddy project, which is the Fontenelle project. And a subsequent task order to this technical service agreement was the risk assessment. If you were to drain the reservoir without the riprap in place, that idea, would there be a problem, some kind of elevated risk that they would not allow that? And then another portion of that technical service, the task order was the design of the actual riprap placement on the lower part of the dam. So there's roughly $410,000 left. We did the risk assessment as part of the task order. We haven't done the design of the riprap yet on Fontenelle. So I want to keep that money active when we get to that point. We've had a lot of good discussion with the Bureau of Reclamation, technical discussions on making sure they understand what kind of flexibility we need to have for the state of Wyoming to acquire the additional water that's available in Fontenelle Reservoir and what their operations require and on some additional water. But a next step would then be the eventual design of that riprap. So I want to keep that active. So what I'm asking for is, I realized the technical service agreement expires in February of 2025. And so I want to update that. So this would, if you can scroll down, I believe it goes to 2030. Yeah. Yeah. So this would extend that through February 28th of 2030. When they sent it to me, this has just been in the last week or so, so we haven't had a chance to route it through the AG's office for review of contracts. So what I'm asking for is for your approval, once that gets approved by the AG's office, to sign on behalf of the commission. And then there's going to be a subsequent task order, which I just described, where we haven't spent the riprap design funding yet, to extend that task order for the same amount of time or some similar period. So it'd be a time extension only. So then asking for approval to sign on behalf of the commission to approve or continue to approve task orders on this particular technical service agreement. So with that, I'd ask if there are any questions.
Commission, any questions? So essentially what you're asking is for us to authorize you to enter into the contract with Bureau of Reclamation, to sign on behalf of the commission.
That's right. It would be amendment 2 to the contract or to the technical service agreement, and then the subsequent task orders that might follow.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion to allow the director to sign on behalf of the commission with respect to amendment number 2 and further task orders, correct?
Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Commissioner Khan has moved to approve. Second by Commissioner Stuker since his last meeting. And so, okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Is not present today,
Mhm.
and we have some things that need to be signed. Be appreciated.
Vice Chair Craig, that usually falls to you. You okay with staying and signing some documents? Yes, you are. Yeah. Okay, he's been voluntold. Okay, we're moving on. So that's what we will designate him to
Okay.
assign on behalf of Secretary Cho. And now we're going to go on to the tour.
Yes. So from this previous August, but does take some planning. And I know there's at least one idea out there. So maybe Commissioner Cott, if you'd like.
Director Mead. Barry at our last meeting said that he had never been down in a trona mine and really would love to do that. And so I said, well, we'll see what we can do. And plans are tours for 35 people. And in that 35, I've taken to mean, legislators, commission members, staff, and a sprinkling of spouses, anywhere from 3 to 5, depending upon the tour. Not everybody could bring their spouse. It would make it pretty crazy. But I got a couple short memos of commitment regarding the potential for a tour for 35 people. This may involve all 4 trona mines. Mine manager for Genesis Alkali. It's the oldest mine out there. And his name is Fred. And it says, "Hi, Mark. I didn't get family members in the mine, just business people, staff, etc." Fred was right about that. We are still waiting to hear back from the other mines, but Fred has a meeting with the other trona mines January 7th. They will discuss your tour request then, so we will get back to you on spouses for other mines after that meeting. How many other mines can accommodate a tour and how many can each accommodate will be decided. I will speak to you soon. So there's a commitment. Fred is going to coordinate with I just like to read just to show that, there is some serious, there's been some serious consideration of this. And
oh, you've got it up on the screen. Never mind. These are the past locations we went through the previous years.
All right. And I think, I didn't know, Director, too, if we did do it in the Rock Springs area, would we be able to go up and tour Fontanelle as well, or would it take too much time?
and I can talk, Madam Chair, I can talk to that. And we certainly need to decide whether we want to do this or not. We have and this is from Neil Melicote, who is the, I believe, the mine manager at CC Jam, which is a new, it's a mine owned by the Turks. We have handled large tours before. If I'm understanding your email correctly, you are estimating between 20 and 30 individuals. If that's the case, plate. So what we have 2 mines that are, actively looking to help us out. Genesis could take up to 10. This one could take, up to 30. So, they have us covered. But if you bring in a 3rd mine or a 4th mine, those tour groups are not as that the cost of that bus would be $2,000. Similarly grouped. So, and we'd have to leave at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And the morning would be a mine tour. The afternoon would be I know the mines are interested in having water development folks out there. Water is very important to them. So with that, they have a bus that goes around Flaming Gorges, which is also an all-day tour. Very interesting. Many stops along the gorge. They stop at the dam, they stop at historical sites, Red Canyon Lodge. They provide lunch. They provide ice cream. That costs $50 a piece. So I mean, nothing's free in this world. But the mines, if we go to the mines, they would provide lunch. They would just need our shoe size, and so there's been quite a bit of work on this. So, that's just one option, and, we can do other things or other places. So thank you. But I would need to know probably today, because there's a number of things that are pushing forward with the mines. I need to tell them, halt, we're not doing it. So that's.
Thanks, Commissioner Cott, for taking the lifting on this matter. And I think it'd be interesting. I have done a Toronto mine tour before. It's interesting. They do obviously contract with us to buy water or to have water secured from Fontenelle, right?
Yes.
And so so it could be interesting for the commission, but it's really up to the commission to decide. And I just like
So one of the mines is 800 feet. That's a shallow one. Most of them are around 1,500 feet deep. So
I'm a very claustrophobic person and I made it through it. So don't worry.
high as the sea.
Okay. For you, Commissioner Craig? Haley?
I like looking at stuff.
Okay. Do we vote on this? How does this work, Director Mead?
Where's Barry? We do Barry. Sure. I've never put something in, say Green River Rock Springs real quick. We could add something. We'll just have to kind of figure out time. From Rock
Yeah,
Springs. So
I didn't know if we had stuff like the next day, but
yeah,
kind of split it. No,
but
okay.
yeah, hey, it makes it easy on us if we've got Toronto mines setting up all the tour stuff. So
Madam Chairman, I think that option, I mean, it depends upon how quick people want to bail on the last day. I mean, in Afton, we had a morning tour and then we came back and then we met in the afternoon to finish the day up. So, I mean, that's an option. I mean,
Right. I think you can look. As a chairman, say, let's do this and proceed accordingly. We don't have the speaker system, but they always have to drag it around anyway. I know that sometimes people meet at the college too as well.
okay,
But I can work with y'all on that too.
sounds good. We'll reach out. All right. So
just one other thing, if there are folks that are to come up and then everybody would go at once, but so there will be enough to see there and they will serve lunch. So it would be all day. A lot of it because you have training, I mean, it's just not, go down in the mine. You gotta, there's a whole process.
Okay.
Okay, great. We'll proceed that way. So you want to go through the next schedule again? I'm for Larry's leaving us party. And then I know that, first of all, I guess maybe we'll have you, we would like to have you do some.
Yes. So Madam Chair, just really appreciate Commissioner Sucre's hard work over 8 years. I think he came on the commission in 2017. So he's served 2 full 4-year terms, and just really appreciate his unique perspective with your, involvement and on our projects, and the, questions you've asked have been invaluable. So remember us by.
We want to, can we all stand and give Larry a round of applause? We really thank you, Larry, for all you've done. I've enjoyed. We'll miss you, Larry. And if you haven't done a Toronto Mine tour, we think we could invite an ex-member to come on down and join us.
Well, I just want to say a few things. I want to thank the commission for allowing me to serve on this board for the last 8 years. I got a lot out of it too. I also want to appreciate the constituents that over the years that I've been a commissioner with. There's been several, some one term and not the next, and some of them, I think I'm the last one on this tour that I know of, besides
Clinton.
Clinton.
Yeah.
Clinton, I think, served 12 years because I think he filled in for someone earlier. But saying that, yeah, I'm the old guy here, I guess, and maybe by age too. But I say, the staff, Jason, and your position, thank God. I mean, I like where you're at. I talked you into it, and by God, I like that. And I hope you're happy with it. And I know you are. I can tell.
I've been enjoying a good commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, with that, I miss
Larry, I've been with you a long road because I was on Select Water with you, and I'll miss you. But I think it would be fine if you did want to come. Have you toured the Toronto Mine, Larry?
I never had.
Maybe you should come down and take a tour with us.
There's an invitation.
That's an invitation.
We can make an invitation.
Let's see what happens.
All right.
If you don't want to go down, you can be at the bar.
Okay, so you got 2
I wish I had
invitations.
not.
All right, well, you think about it, but we will miss you. You have been great. I've enjoyed working with you all these years. You've
Our current commission meeting is scheduled for March 18th. This would be after we meet with the Select Water Committee right at the end of the session, is what we usually do. Last day of session this year, I believe, is March 6th. So we will get their review and recommendation in advance of the commission acting on things. And of course, one of the big things is small water projects that you'll see applications for a workshop and a meeting, or just a meeting, and we'll see how that works out. So I think that's really all I have, besides, again, mentioning tomorrow Select Water Committee meeting. As you recall, the discussion at the November meeting about the water rights just like you guys did. So encourage you to participate or show up if you want, or you can listen online.
great. Thank you. So I guess now we need a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead.
I have
Commissioner.
a question before we adjourn of
Okay,
the
sorry about that.
director. One of the things that we're sending to the legislature to consider is a time extension for alkali.
Mhm.
Do you have any information on that? Where is it at? Are we making any progress?
So there will be opportunity tomorrow for public comment, and there have been some landowners invited to let them know that the omnibus bill and the extension is part of the omnibus bill, and really an effort moving forward by the Select Water Committee to involve them in more meetings where we know that there might be some discussion about the project. So don't know if anybody will choose to join online or not, but they have been invited by the Legislative Service Office. There have been some conversations we're kind of trying to tackle one landowner at a time. We have reached out, or I should say the district and the if there's interest in mediation, but maybe just some conversation. So trying to make progress, I think, at the district, and still feel it's a very viable project. I'm sure they'll probably provide public comment tomorrow in regards to the time extension and the importance of the project to them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
I move we adjourn.
Yes, okay, here we go. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.